Here.
Senator Carthen,
Here.
Senator Ezell,
Here.
Senator Hassel, Senator Jackson,
I'm here.
Senator Jarvis,
Here.
Senator Levine, Senator McDaniel, Senator Murphy,
Here.
Senator Rouge, Senator Simmons,
Here.
and Senator Stelling.
Here.
Okay, thank you for that. Can I have a motion to approve today's agenda?
I, Senator Jackson, motion to approve today's agenda.
So moved.
Thank you. So first thing on the today's agenda is appointments. So can I have a motion to open the floor on discussion for appointments?
I, Senator Ezell, motion to open the floor for appointments.
So moved.
Okay, so first we have, please correct me if I'm wrong, but Okay, Rome. Emmanuel, would you like to speak, or if they are here, they can speak as well on their behalf?
Yeah,
President,
thank
you
you for having me. Thank you, Vice President Mayweather. So we have Okai and Amaya. I'm going to go ahead and share a bit about both of them. So Okai and Amaya were both the people who were recommended by not the staff of the College of Pharmacy. So Amaya, I know she ran. You ran for Miss P1. Am I correct, Amaya? I think Amaya ran for Miss
No, I
P1.
ran for Vice President.
Vice President, thank you. She ran for Vice President Okai. I'm familiar with Okai from last year. And so when the names came across, it was actually a wrap because I'm familiar with Okai's work ethic, and I know Amaya, that she's willing to do it, not just the friends she has, but the people she surrounds herself with, and the fact that she's in pharmacy school. She's been very proactive on campus while she was an undergrad, and now that she's in pharmacy, she went ahead, P1, ran for vice president, wasn't successful, and said, what else can I do? That's the kind of attitude we need on the election board, especially in a semester such as this, where there are so many changes. So I'm excited to nominate both of them for full permanent positions on the election board this semester.
Thank you, President Yuka, for that. Senators, do you have any questions for the appointees or Emmanuel? President Yuka, I'm so sorry. If there are no questions, I'm going to open the breakout room so that we can go in for Senate discussion. Ready?
Hey, Maya.
Hey, Emmanuel, how are you?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. Just making it. That's the word, making it.
I'm wondering how y'all are doing. Are y'all doing anything virtual or no for P1?
So yeah, we have the option to be virtual, but our professors, they do show up. But we do have a lab that's in person that everyone has to go to.
Oh, tough. Wow. Hey, and how's election stuff going? I know you've been in a few meetings. Are you ready?
Yeah, so we were kind of confused at first because we didn't know if we were going to be with SGA or just by ourselves. So we're meeting with Erica and Rashad soon this week to just discuss everything. They did say we are going to be with SGA, so that we did get confirmation with that. But
Okay.
yeah, everything is coming by so quickly.
Yeah. Hopefully, moving forward, there'll be an opportunity to open up an apparatus for just PSA so that they can have their own director of elections and work that out. That'd be really cool. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. You all have been appointed into the position. You will receive an email from me giving you all the official appointment in 24 hours or so. Next on the agenda, we have budgets. So can I have a motion to open the floor for discussion of budgets?
I, Senator Carthen, motion to open the floor for budgets.
So moved.
Okay, so we have Max 2.0. They submitted an emergency budget. It is as follows. Senators, I know I posted this Monday maybe or Sunday night. So do you guys have any questions for them? The people present.
So I'm just kind of a little bit confused on like certain things, like adopt a grand person and things of that nature, because isn't everything supposed to be virtual this semester? So how we like adopting a grand person? Like, is it supposed to be like writing? And it doesn't really say what those things, like a breakdown of what things, like what things of each event is being paid for. It just kind of like drops an event and then a price next to it. But I'm just not sure what that money is going to, especially because everything is virtual.
Yeah, I'd be happy to explain that. Hi, everyone. My name is Lainey Tabuka-Metzger. I'm the Mobilization at Xavier 2.0 treasurer. I can go through if you guys would like and kind of talk about each section on the budget, if that would be helpful.
Yes, please.
Okay. Vice President Mayweather, can you scroll up a little bit for me?
Yes, one moment. Mr. Wright is still in the breakout room, I think.
Okay.
Let me just
Figured
close
out how to get
out.
back.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, I will scroll up now.
I'm technologically insufficient, sorry.
Mhm.
Okay, so Max has multiple different programs and we focused on serving the community through a lot of different ways. This year we have been impacted by COVID, but we've made sure to follow all of the guidelines that this school has put out for us. So some of that looks like, especially for adopted grand person, I know this semester they are focusing on writing letters to the elderly. And that type of thing, but I'm just gonna go through and kind of describe what each thing is. So for print services, that's like our handbills and our flyers for Max 2.0 events, just so that the student body is aware of what is upcoming in Max. For transportation, so vans aren't as accessible for us this semester, or they weren't last semester, so we have to request buses. That's usually $160 for a round trip.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Could I'm gonna give you access to share your screen so you can freely
Oh, yeah.
scroll.
Yeah, no problem.
It'll be a little easier. Oh, I think Jordan, you have to make her a co-host because I'm a co-host.
It should work now.
Okay, yeah. Can y'all see that?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so like I said, for transportation, it's like $160 round trip, and a lot of our programs do service around 4 days a week. In terms of COVID, we've made sure that all volunteers have masks, and our PCs, which are our project coordinators, are equipped with hand sanitizer, and they always follow the instructions that they're given by our community partner. For our PC spring retreat, this is pretty important because we just make sure that all of our project coordinators are equipped to handle, what they're given for this semester for their volunteer population. So for Paracare, they focus on catering to special needs kids. Homework Clinic does work virtually this semester with the Boys and Girls Club, different tutoring and that type of thing. Hunger Coalition serves the homeless community. So with COVID, that's looked like volunteers packaging different supplies and materials to give to the homeless. Adopt a Grand Person, that's looked like just doing different letters and seeing how creative the PCs can get in terms of, working with that population and also abiding by COVID guidelines. Our Story, they work on African American literature with kids. So Our Story, Go Reads, and Teaching Young Children, they've actually been able to find a site where they get to work with the kids in person. So of course, all volunteers have to wear masks and that type of thing. Hope for Humanity, they focus on beautification of different like kind of community buildings throughout New Orleans. And Outreach Day, if you've ever volunteered with Outreach Day before, you know that they are the site. So they have different kids come to Xavier's campus and they do different activities and things relating to that, or they'll take them on a field trip outside of campus. So I know I kind of jumped around a little bit. Most of the programs that are requesting money so that they can do recruitment events, which are ways to keep their volunteers involved and also to actually recruit new volunteers so they can serve with whichever organization that they're passionate about. So down here, I've kind of just outlined what the different events are that each program is planning to do. Like I said, those recruitment events are just events so that they can connect with their volunteers and also try and recruit new volunteers who are interested in the work that they do. So if you guys have any questions about the events that any one of the programs are doing, you can feel free to ask.
I have a question about two things. So one being the transportation and then two, the social impact.
Oh yeah,
Can you explain what social impact is and why it would take $500 to?
Yeah, definitely. So social impact is one of the things that Max 2.0 is really focusing on. We have a new social impact committee. So this semester, that's going to look like doing different events like Black History Month, autism awareness, and just different events that are going to highlight maybe different members of our student body, and also just raise awareness to different issues on campus. So we have a committee that's actually planning various events to do on campus.
So it's going to actually physically be on campus and not be virtual, even with like the COVID guidelines that we have in place now?
Yeah, right. So depending on, I know that we're currently in phase 1, so we always have a backup plan, like depending on what that looks like. So some of our events will be virtual, but we're also prepared to use funding for those events. So whether that looks like maybe we give volunteers food and they join a Zoom call, that type of thing.
So it's like the $500 is primarily to cover potential snack costs?
Right. So that would look like food, but we're also planning on doing some events Black History Month that may require like maybe different crafts or activities for volunteers to do on their own, and then maybe they tweet out something like what that meant for them. Does that make sense? I can also get you guys more information from our social impact coordinator if you had more questions about that later on.
Yeah, that would be cool. And then my other question about transportation. So you said it was $160 round trip.
Mm-hmm.
And it's saying on here that you need $2,500 altogether.
Right.
So that would mean like you're doing several round trips in one semester.
Yes.
And then like, where are you guys exactly planning to travel to? Like, where are you guys trying to go?
Okay, so I can use Pause for an example. They go to a shelter. They're planning on doing that 4 days a week. So they're going to need 4 buses for those 4 different days a week. And, multiple programs have sites that are actually in person. Right now we're in phase 1, so they can't actually go. But once those restrictions are lifted, we're going to need to be able to transfer volunteers to those sites. So that's when that money is going to come in.
So in the case that like the restrictions aren't, I guess, lifted, because I mean, to be honest, like last year, everybody thought by now we would have been in the clear, and that's clearly like not the case. Like she very well could extend the phase 1 guidelines and things like that. So like in that case, like would y'all just redirect those funds?
Yeah, so that's definitely a valid question. And what our plan is when we request our remaining budget, like for the rest of the semester, these are emergency funds. So this just covers January through like the beginning of March. Then we'll take that into account. We won't request as much for transportation. So if those phase 1 guidelines remain, then that money will go over into our actual funds for the semester. Does that make sense? Did I answer your question?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm
So-
just sorry.
No, you can go ahead.
I'm just not seeing like how this is kind of emergent, considering how we're in phase 1 and a lot of the things that you have planned can't occur at this time. And I don't think that's going to change within the next month, given that there's COVID is rising steadily. And it just kind of doesn't make any sense as far as like you said for certain virtual events, you'd find a way to get materials to the volunteers. But how would that work if it's virtual and like we're all in separate locations? So I'm supposed to stop somewhere and like pick up some stuff and then go back to where I was. That's a little confusing.
I understand. So let me clarify. The only thing that can really be contingent is our transportation, because we're not sure if we're actually able to travel to those sites. But many of the events that our project coordinators have planned for volunteers, they factor in that they're possibly going to be virtual. So I think your confusion was with like, how are you going to actually get the food and then also log on virtually? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you like one of the things you said was you have a Black History Month event where you'd potentially create arts and crafts or things of that nature that you posted on social media. But how would the individuals who are like remote and it's being virtual, how would they receive those materials if,
Right.
given
So you would
circumstances?
definitely have to be on campus to maybe pick up those things that would be necessary for that event. But there are a lot of students who are still coming to campus, still have to get lunch. And those are people who Max 2.0 can engage with and also have them to participate in that cause. So I feel like students will definitely find a way to be involved if they want to. And we're just making sure that those options are available for them.
I can kind of clarify a little bit too. So I know in this case, it kind of looks like we're just requesting funds, but just in the aspect of kind of making sure that the air is clear. In terms of transportation, we actually released program standards today for all of our project coordinators. Basically, this just meaning that us doing service in person or virtually is contingent on our community partners. So basically, we've already cleared this with our advisors, but we've acknowledged the fact that service still should be going on. We've even continued service to continue going on when COVID was in full effect in March, where we began doing virtual service. But virtual service is not something that doesn't take any money. Virtual service does require funds because, like we said, different things that you can do. So I know, for instance, for Adopt a Grandperson, they're actually planning events where, say, for instance, they want to do arts and crafts. The project coordinators will actually go to the nursing homes. They'll drop off the arts and crafts, and they'll actually be on Zoom. So they'll be on Zoom and they'll teach the elderly population how they can do these arts and crafts. So it's important that we're still engaging the community, because if not, then we're not serving. Max won't have a purpose at that point. So this is why it's so important to continue doing service and make sure that we're doing this safely. So that's why it's so important that we're requesting transportation. As of right now, we can't request vans because the vans are kind of in overload, bringing people to Hilton, bringing people to UNO. So now we're having to request buses. And these buses are obviously the better option because they're allowing people to social distance so much more. So this is why we're having to request buses. We're not able to do vans like we've done in previous years. And in terms of the social impact, so we're planning on doing a lot of different things that will still engage the student body. I know one thing that we're planning in particular is the Sankofa Museum on Wheels. So this is actually going to be socially distant as well. But students, it's kind of like a museum that comes to campus. It's kind of like a food truck, but they actually walk through, and it's like a Black History museum, but it's on wheels. So it's still a lot of different things that we can do to make sure that we're engaging the community, make sure that we're engaging the student body, and we're increasing social awareness, but we're still remaining safe. So it's important that our programs are still receiving funding for this, because if they're not receiving funding, then at that point they're just doing, and there's no meaning behind it. So this is why it's so important for us to do things, especially like the spring retreat, because as you can see, Max is a family organization. So our spring retreat, we actually changed it to a format that we're going to make sure that we're socially distant. We're going to make sure that we're in the biggest rooms possible, because if we don't have a family within Max 2.0, how can we serve the community? So these are just some things to take into account.
Okay, so I have a slight question, which, you know, touches on the social impact further. So how does that really align with like doing community service? Because it sounds more like, you know, like more like a event plan, like, you know, everybody just kind of, you know, trying to socialize, rather than a community service event where you're doing volunteer work. So like, how does that really align with Max 2.0's, I guess, ultimate goal to provide community service, if
Right.
it's more so for the students than the community?
Yeah. So basically, so while Max does focus on community service, it's not our only goal. Our mission is actually, so basically our mission statement of Max is that we have the desire to promote social awareness, social responsibility, and social justice within the greater New Orleans community. So this doesn't just take, isn't just civic engagement, but it's also making sure that our students are aware of different social issues that are going on. So that's why it's important that we're able to provide our students with these social awareness topics that they may not have learned. A lot of times we come to college and we realize these are things that I've never heard before. I've never heard this Black history before, but now I'm here. So now I'm being socially aware, and I'm receiving the tools that will make me the best leader, and that will allow me to go on my quest of pursuing a more just and humane society. So it's not just the fact that we're pursuing service, but we're also giving a learning opportunity. And that's so much more than the Max that we've had in previous years. And that's why this is what we've been expanding to. This is what we've done last semester. And it's something that we continue to do even after we leave Xavier, because it's important that we're educated on different things, different topics in the Black and African American community.
So you said that it was going to be like more like a museum truck, or like something that they could like walk in, like a walk-in museum. How much does it cost to get that walk-in museum on campus, whereby we could, I guess, utilize that aspect of it? And also, what social, I guess you said social awareness, so like, have you discussed what exactly you guys want to spread awareness about, you know, when the students do actually decide to come in and, you know, I guess, see what it's about?
Right. So the museum is basically going to fill the cost that's requested on the budget. So this is just emergency funds. So that's going to cover, that'll most likely cover the bus. But the different social awareness topics that we have include Black Love Week, Black History Month, Women's History Month, Stress Awareness Month. We also have different things such as Women and Girls HIV Day. So it's so much more than just Black History Month. It's so much more than just service. If we just did service, then it would just be, oh, this is a community service club. It's more than that. And that's exactly why we have to be intentional about all of our planning and make sure that we're not just being transactional, where you come and you do service, you get your service hours, but we're being transformational, where you come, you get your service hours, and you also learn. So that's why these things are so important.
Okay, so then my other question would be, do you guys have any remaining funds from last semester? Because I mean, you know, of course, in like one of our last meetings, we did discuss how the student activity fee was, you know, increasing. So that meant all of the programs and, you know, all of the other clubs and stuff had much, much, much more money than they had in the previous years. So being that you guys kind of made it work with like less than the previous years, now that you guys have more money, like, was there anything left? And is there anything that you guys can put towards this emergency budget that was left over from last semester?
So we do have money left over, but we have already been told that we are not able to use that as it is rollover funds. But just to kind of debunk the around getting funds last year, the funds that we received last year and previous years, it wasn't sustainable to support a community at all. We actually ended up, a lot of our programs, when they put their budget requests in at the beginning of the semester for last year, they actually, not last semester, but last year, they actually had budgets that were sustainable. They had budgets to fill these different events, but they were let know that they would only have $150 to do whatever they needed to do. And programs like Outreach Day suffered because Outreach Day is its own site in itself, meaning that the students come there, the students, they basically create the lesson plan, they create the food. It's kind of like a school for a day. And it got to the point where they were actually, one of their options they suggested was making cold cut sandwiches because they had no other option to pick up food. And that's kind of why we had to get the budget increase. And we've really seen an increase for it. And I can also pull up some quotes from different people, such as the mayor of New Orleans, as well as Vice President Wright, just regarding how Max has revamped itself since we've received a 200% increase in our budget. But as of right now, we do not have access to those funds simply because we're not able to use rollovers, which is why it's so important to request this emergency budget and utilize those funds in an atmosphere that is conducive to it.
I just want to ask, I want to clarify. So you all have monies left over from last year's SGA funds, correct?
Yes, we do.
Yes, we have money left over from last semester.
And so I would probably want to then talk offline about why it is that you can't use those funds, because in my opinion, those funds are available for use because right now they're currently stored in SGA's. I'm sorry, my dogs are wanting to be a part of the conversation too. So they're currently stored in SGA's budget, right? And so since you've not expended them, they're still there available. So I just want to be able to talk offline about why it is that why does the feminism advise you that you can't use them? Because as far as I'm concerned, you can use those budgets. You can't go over, of course, but you certainly can use budget from semester to semester. We don't want it. It's not if you don't spend, you lose it until the end of the academic year, right? But at this point, we want you to be able to take full advantage of all those resources that are available to you, such that you're not coming hat in hand at the beginning because you still have resources there. So we can talk more offline to figure out why it is that you've been advised that way. But in my opinion, you do have access to those resources until it's zero, if that makes sense.
Definitely. And I think that would definitely help out. And most likely whatever funds we have left over, we can take the difference from our emergency funds currently and utilize our funds from last semester. But like I said, we were just advised that we weren't allowed to use rollovers and that money would go back to its primary account that it came from. So yeah, that's something we can talk about offline.
I'm going to interrupt you there, Larry, if I can. So I spoke with Miss Sierra and Miss Godfrey today. So we are allowing rollover funds. And specifically for Laney, because you're sharing your screen, do you have like your budget from last year that you could show us so we can see where money was allocated as well as how much money is left over?
Yes, I do. It's not in a prepared document. I can show you what we were given last year, but I don't have the funds together where I can show you guys like side by side what was given and what was spent, if that makes sense. But I'm actually in the process of preparing it right now for Emmanuel to send to him by Friday.
Okay, when you send that to Emmanuel, can you send that to the SGA BP email as well as the SGA Senate Clerk email?
Okay, got it.
I have a question about where the spring retreat is gonna be. Like, how are you guys thinking about doing that?
Yes, and that's something that Larry can probably talk a little bit more about that too.
Got you. So our spring retreat, like I said, Max, it's all about family, and we can't have family if we can't be able to kind of express that. So Ideally, PC retreats. Ideally, you would want PC retreat to be virtual just because of COVID, but we're actually able to modify it, make sure that everyone is being safe, make sure that we're actually in the ballroom. So our PC spring retreats, they usually include different things like informational sessions, as well as team building that will allow people, because we actually have new programs, new project coordinators, and sometimes they may have never met before. They may have never even seen each other in person. And a lot of times when we're planning these events and we're planning things that we're going to do, if we don't have chemistry, it might be a little bit hard to do that. So that's why we're really trying to have this PC retreat. It's a Max tradition. We always have our PC spring retreat, and this semester it's not the same. It's actually modified to make sure that we're team building, but we're staying safe, and that's something that's so important within Max, just to be able to have that family atmosphere. So with the spring retreat, we were actually planning on hosting. So with our informational sessions, it'll be over 2 days. We would allow our PCs to come in, socially distant, of course, and this will basically encapsulate food, of course, because we'll be having them there for the night, not the whole night, of course. They won't be like sleeping out, but they'll be there for the night, and they'll also be there the next morning. So we have to make sure that we have food for them, as well as make sure that we have different activities, different things that they can do, and things that can capture their attention and bring them to the ultimate goal, or the ultimate question of what's our why? Why are we serving? Why are we doing this work for the community? And that's why it's important to really have a PC spring retreat.
So how are you guys able to be in person? Because we can't have our Senate meetings in person, and all class meetings and everything of that nature is virtual. So I'm just confused on how your spring retreat is in person.
Right. So we've already cleared it out with our advisor, as well as the director of the Center for Student Involvement. So she is aware, and she actually approves having a spring retreat in person. But of course, it will be modified to ensure that we're being socially distant. So we only have about 20, 25 PCs, which means that the room that we're going to be in won't be anywhere near capacity. We can actually have several seats in between PCs to where they're not close, but they're still able to generate that family atmosphere. So I hope that helped.
I have a question regarding the spring retreat as well. You said that you guys will be serving breakfast as well, but I only see dinner and lunch. So is breakfast coming out of one of those funds, or?
Oh, I apologize. So we're doing dinner on the first day. The second day, it will just be lunch. So yeah, but of course, we are going to follow COVID guidelines that have already been issued from the Center for Student Involvement, which means that these items will be packaged in a room far away from our project coordinators as possible, just to make sure that we're still being safe, of course, because like you said, it's the modified version of these events.
So I have a site. So you feel like you guys won't get to know each other better if it's maybe something that's online and not in person? Because if you're in person, there's still always going to be that risk, when y'all are eating, like, there could still be like some form of like exposure to COVID. Like, does it have to be, I guess, as lavish as, I guess, like being in person, especially like with what's going on? Can it be something that is virtual? That way you guys don't even have to spend money on it altogether? Or is it something that you just like, we don't want it to be virtual altogether?
I mean, ideally, the goal of having it in person is just to have those activities that build teamwork. So it's kind of hard to do. I feel like we can all agree that it is hard to build teamwork and build a repertoire with our team if we're not in person. And that's why we want to have our PC retreat in person. And that's why even when we serve food, we have the entire third floor. It's not just like people won't be at school because it'll be a Friday night and a Saturday morning. So you'll be able to span the entire third floor to where people are not being confined. People aren't in that same UC 316. And then once they vacate that room, go ahead and sanitize the desk, things like that. Okay, y'all can come back in. But really, ideally, we would like this to be in person just because it's important to be able to build those different relationships And it's also important to make sure that we're learning our why, we're expressing our why through different activities and different discussions that probably won't be as conducive virtually. We've conducted an entirely virtual retreat over 3 days last semester, or last year actually, from 8 to 4. And we know how it is. We know exactly how tiring it is to be on a Zoom call. And that's why we've taken the necessary precautions to make sure that our students our PCs are remaining safe, our community is remaining safe, and that our volunteers, who are our biggest stakeholder, are remaining safe.
I just had a
Go ahead.
sorry.
You good,
I just
Jasmine?
have a question for clarification about the recruitment events, like for homework clinic and stuff. Since it's virtual, is the recruitment events for students to become a part of homework clinic and stuff like that, or is it for members and stuff like that? I just
Yeah.
missed.
So recruitment events, this kind of encompasses recruitment events as well as outreach events. So for recruitment events, of course, we would be trying to gain more volunteers. And also we have outreach events, which Homework Clinic may feature. Homework Clinic may feature. So I know last year they also, not last year, last semester, they had some virtual outreach events that kind of included aspects that needed to be paid for, such as like a movie night with the students. So they would go, they would drop off the popcorn, the teachers would make sure that it was socially distant, and they would watch the movie during school time. So there's so much that we can do by just being innovative within this. So that's why it's important to still receive funds in that aspect. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
So I have a question for Lainey.
Mhm.
What was your role during the semester as far as like keeping up with the budgets? Because my concern is that you have no form of like purchase request or anything to show what you all spent last semester. So what was your role? What did you do?
Okay, yeah, I did actually have a spreadsheet throughout the semester where all of the PCs submit invoices for the purchases that they want to make to me, and I upload those to XConnect. Whenever they purchase what they need to, they give me back a receipt, and I record that on a spreadsheet. I could show you guys that if you want, just because I have it available, but it's not necessarily the prettiest, so I didn't want to present it. But I am keeping track of what we are spending.
Okay, great. That was my only question, just because, yeah, I understand the ugly spreadsheets.
Yeah, it's definitely important, especially since it's a large budget increase. So yeah, I want to make sure you guys keep in track of the record.
And we've also been working a little bit more this semester with Miss Franklin as well as Kaylin, just to make sure that we're utilizing our funds, maximizing our budget, and making sure that we're being safe with everything. So we've also been receiving like clearances. So like when we submit budgets, when we submit invoices, they're actually like seeing, okay, like I see this event, and it's kind of like that last string of protection of having that event. So now they're like, okay, and they might direct some questions toward us, and they're always making sure that the things that we're doing are safe. So like if we submit a budget, we submit an invoice for like an event, they may, okay, I see y'all have this event. How do y'all plan on being safe? So they're kind of like that second string of safety as well. And we've definitely utilized them, and we definitely appreciate them for that.
Okay, thank you, Larry. I have one more question. Either one of y'all can answer. So I know that Max has two forms of income, both from SGA and volunteer services. Do you all know the average amount of money that y'all receive from volunteer services? And when do y'all receive that money? Have y'all already received that money? Is this on top of what y'all are getting from volunteer services?
Yeah, so that money that we receive from volunteer services, it's actually, we don't actually receive it. It's not like they say, okay, here's our contribution. It's more so that they feel the cost of things that they've always fielded the cost for. So big events such as Service Saturday. As you guys know, Service Saturday is always very big. So we're currently working on modifying that right now. But in the past, that's what they've paid for. So they've fielded costs of those events. It hasn't been like, okay, we're gonna donate so much money to Max. So with that, so it's not really a second source of income. It's just that's volunteer services. Like that's a part of the Center for Student Involvement. So that's something that they've always done. They've always fielded the cost of service Saturdays because that's not realistically, that's not something that you would want Max to pay for, just because it normally ranges from about $1,500 to $3,000 just to provide transport, because there's so much transportation that goes into it, as well as food. So ideally that's where the money comes from, but it doesn't go directly to Max.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. And just one more question, I'm sorry. So I did the math as far as transportation, and that's gonna be about 16 different like things before the original, like before President UCOT presents the original budget. Do you think that you all are gonna take 15 trips, like 15 different trips somewhere?
Yeah,
before February 14th?
Yeah, so Outreach Day. Outreach Day has has like field trips planned, socially distant, of course. We also have different things. So basically, another way that we're being socially distant is Pause. Pause is actually rebranding for this semester. So shameless plug, Pause is rebranding. Make sure that y'all come out. But basically, what we're gonna do to make sure that we're being socially distant is they're actually offering more service, but they're dividing it up. So now one group that's taking the bus is actually going on the West Bank, and simultaneously the other group will be going on the East Bank location. So this is why it's so important to actually have buses, because if we're not having buses, we're not going to be able to go to their service at all. So that's why we need this much transportation. And we can always talk offline about just the transportation issue in general, because it is sort of pressing, but I think it's really important, especially because Pause plans on going to service about 4 to 5 times a week. So that's why. So yeah, that's why we have a $2,500 budget for transportation, and then we also have other programs too. So that's why. So now transportation is a little bit limited, and we're letting our programs know, like, okay, we have to be mindful of where we're going, be mindful of the amount of service we're doing now, because we don't want to request too much, but we also want to make sure that we're still being able to serve. And Pause isn't the only program that will be requiring transportation.
Okay, thank you. I guess my only concern with the whole $2,500, that's almost half of your transportation budget from last semester. And so I guess my only concern is people need to start, like, maybe there shouldn't be so many going out events, especially with COVID and everything. So that was why I asked that question. I have one more question.
I mean, with the going out events, like the ones where they drop materials off, PCs have actually they've actually taken the responsibility on to take their personal vehicles and drop these materials off themselves. The transportation is just like the normal transportation. So when you all go to like Pause or different things like that, when you would take a van, you would normally take a van, but now we have to take buses. But like I said, we've been limiting that. So we are being mindful of it, but we also realize the fact that service still goes on. Last semester, we got a late start on service, but we still used up almost the entire transportation budget, which was $6,000. So transportation is a really pressing issue, like I said, but it's something that we definitely have to be mindful of, because service should still be going on. And if our community partners would like us there, we're going to modify it to make sure that we're able to be safe and still get to service.
Okay. And I remember my last question for you is, I know that, you know, your mission statement is talking about social impact and things of that nature for the community. Will all of your social impact events be open to the community as well? So if people who are not Xavier students, will they be able to attend?
Right. So so normally in the past we haven't opened it to the community, just because we feel that Max is really the embodiment of the Xavier mission. And something important is we can't develop people outside of Xavier if we can't develop Xavier first. So that's why it's so important to be socially aware. But that doesn't mean that our social media campaigns are limited to members of the community. So when we do things like Breast Cancer Month, which you may have all seen, we actually did breast cancer facts every day of the month. And then at the end, we actually had like a live music Friday with breast cancer facts, breast cancer awareness. So these things aren't open to the community, but social media, like on social media, the community, we've actually been engaging them. Sankofa CDC, you can all look them up. They love Xavier students. They've been very active within our social awareness. We've also been working with just different places, especially Red Cross. If you guys know Holly Grove Dixon, they have actually sent us an email just saying how much they love Xavier students. So they've been kind of interacting with us via social media.
Okay, thank you. Senators, do y'all have any more questions, concerns? Actually, I have one more question. I'm sorry. Could you scroll down, Lainey?
Yep.
So yeah, right here, homework clinic.
Okay.
Oh no, not homework clinic. Keep scrolling. Oh no, maybe I read something wrong. That's all.
And I'll be sure to include you on the email to Emmanuel on Friday so that you can see where those funds went.
Okay, thank you. Senators, do y'all have any other questions?
Okay, I have one more like little small one. So have you already talked with all of your community partners and they've all agreed to have these events with you guys?
Yes, so we've like I said, the community is always at the forefront. That's our slogan, with civic engagement at the forefront. So some sites have confirmed that we'll be in person. One of our sites, Life of Christ Academy, which is actually where our advisor's son goes, they've confirmed that we'll be virtual, but we do have some sites that have opted in for the in-person just because Xavier students are needed, and we have to make sure that we're taking that call to action within the community.
So
some sites, yeah, sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yeah, so we have some sites that have agreed to doing virtual service, and then we also have some that have agreed to doing in person. But we're actually, this semester we've seen that we've had an increase in requests for service, especially virtual. So we actually just had a group from Boston email us asking us to do service with them, be academic mentors. So there's a virtual aspect, but there's also an in-person aspect that our community really needs.
So are the partners that you listed on this budget only representative of the in-person ones because they'll cost money for like snacks and buses and things like that? Or did you, I guess, allot money to the virtual volunteer opportunities as well?
Right, so this budget actually doesn't outline partners, it just outlines our programs. Each partner, they normally have about 1 to maybe 4 different community partners. So like say for instance, Hunger Coalition, they may go to Second Harvest, Salvation Army. So we've actually been communicating with them, but our virtual programs as well as our in-person programs, they'll still utilize different funds. So say for instance, we do something called like a chat and chew within Max. This is where we kind of recruit volunteers and we receive feedback. So feedback is something that's so important because it allows us to know exactly what our volunteers want. And that's why we want to make sure that we're utilizing our chat and tools. So with this, the format that some of our programs are taking is they're actually having something where they'll come and they'll grab lunch. Lunch will be provided on the program just so they can kind of attend, because if we had the chat and chew in person, they will receive lunch. So to make sure that we're being safe, they'll come in, they'll pick up their lunch, and they'll actually join the Zoom call. So whenever they pick up their lunch, they'll just have that link for Zoom, and they'll be able to join the Zoom call and provide their feedback on how the program that they're participating in is going. So yeah, so we do have in-person, we do have virtual, but everything has been allocated funds.
Okay, one more question, I promise, one more question. Okay, so I thought I was going crazy if I wasn't. I see here Outreach Day says $500, but then if you go down to like the sub things, I don't see Outreach Day.
Right.
So what is the
yeah.
for?
So outreach. So the reason Outreach Day isn't listed is because they actually, like I said, they serve as their own site. Outreach Day was actually our first Max program ever. So that they take a lot of we take a lot of respect to Outreach Day. So the reason that Outreach Day has requested so much money is just because they're basically the daycare that's so much more than a daycare. Basically, they feed their students. They provide different arts and crafts. So that's why it's so important. And this is actually our program that has risen up in COVID, and they've been outside Walgreens recruiting students because it's so important to still be serving. So we have to make sure that we're feeding the students because they're there from 8 to 12, and they're doing their arts and crafts, or they're doing their different things. I know one time they made slime. So it's just so much different. So it's so much that we're doing within Outreach Day that really prompts having $500.
So is this their money for the whole semester? Like, are you just trying to get their lump sum money, or is this
No.
supposed to be until March?
Yeah, so this should hold them till March. We've seen in the past that last semester Outreach Day exceeded their budget, and we actually had to do some reallocations just because, like I said, Outreach Day is its own site. Like with our other programs, they have a site that they'll go to. So like Our Story, Go Read, they'll go to Life of Christ Christian Academy. But with Outreach Day, they say they're going to Outreach Day. They don't say they're going to a school. So that's why we have to make sure that we're fielding that cost. And we never want to kind of revert back to that mindset of, oh, let's make cold cut sandwiches, because we realize like that's not something that we want to do. That's not something that we want our students to go back home telling their parents, oh yeah, I made my own cold cut today and I ate it. So that's why it's not just feeding them, but it's also making sure that they can stay engaged in the activities and do this safely. So it's not just it doesn't just include food and activities, but it also includes some Germ-X, hand sanitizer, different things. And we actually just received an order of hand sanitizer, but that came through CSI. So.
Okay, so I have a question. So how much is the rollover amount that they said you guys weren't going to be able to access from that semester?
So we're as of right now, we're unsure of our rollover amount. And this is why it's so important that we're coordinating with Kaylin, SGA treasurer, and Ms. Franklin, because as of right now, our XConnect total is not accurate. And a lot of times we've noticed that some things in XConnect are not accurate. So this is why we've actually been trying to host a meeting with Ms. Franklin and Kaylin so we can kind of all get on the same page and make sure that we are being intentional in all of our programming and all of our budgeting, and make sure that we're maximizing those funds. So as of right now, I won't be able to give you a specific price, but we are working to get a meeting with Ms. Franklin and Kaylin and see where the disconnect is in terms of our budgeting.
What does your XConnect balance say now?
So our XConnect balance says $8,000, which is nowhere near how much we should have.
XConnect is not showing the correct amount right now, but according to like what we've done this semester, we have about 4,100 remaining. XConnect is showing $8,000 right now, which isn't correct.
So you saying, oh, I got a little mixed up. So you saying that y'all think that 4,100 is left over, not 8,000?
Right. Yeah, we know we're sure that it's 4,100. I'm not sure why XConnect is showing $8,000. It's just because the invoices and the purchases that we make through XConnect, sometimes the larger purchases that we've made throughout the semester aren't put in through XConnect. So it's that amount is not going to show correct.
Yeah, it's a lot of processes like purchase orders and different things that we've put in for like really big purchases. So that may be why XConnect isn't reflecting those. But we know that our amount that's in XConnect is not accurate as of right now.
Okay, because I'm a little concerned with it, because like that's like almost a $4,000 inaccurate difference. So like, what do you?
We're a little bit concerned about that too, which is why Larry stated we're going to be meeting with Ms. Franklin and the treasurer to discuss that.
Cool.
One more question. What is thank you dinner, and when is that happening?
Yeah, so that's an event that Pear Care is doing. Like I said, Pear Care caters to special needs children, and they've been meeting virtually through Zoom this semester. So Thank You Dinner is just an opportunity for them to thank their volunteers and for them to also discuss with their current volunteers and maybe some people who are interested in volunteering with Pear Care what they want service to look like going forward. And that event is going to take place. Sorry, people keep calling me. That event is going to take place. It's in the middle of February. I don't know the exact date.
And you said it's going to be virtual?
Yes, so if we are still in phase 1 by the time we get to their event, then they will provide their volunteers with food and they'll meet virtually to discuss their program.
So you want them to come to you in person and then disperse back to their rooms and then like discuss things with you on Zoom?
Right, so we really left that creativity up to the project coordinators. It's really important that they thank their volunteers because obviously they did a lot of work with Pear Care and they want to show their appreciation. So, I mean, everybody loves getting a meal. So they get the opportunity to go and get a nice dinner and then go back and discuss with their project coordinators what they did, if that makes sense.
And it's also a really good way of just appreciating our volunteers, especially for taking that step of doing service during a global pandemic. So it's important that we're celebrating our wins and we're recognizing our volunteers for having a why and pursuing it. So that's why we have to have things like a thank you dinner. So we're acknowledging the hard work that they're doing. We're acknowledging the fact that they're still a student and they're doing these things because they want to serve the community.
I have a question. So, are the volunteers already members? Are you guys gonna do it where you advertise it on your social media platforms and then you have students come and say, I want to volunteer?
Are you asking about the thank you dinner specifically?
In general, because
Okay.
if you look down at the budget, it says recruitment, and I'm guessing you guys are talking about for volunteers.
Mhm.
So I think I just need a little clarity on like, are they already members and you guys are calling them volunteers, or are you looking for volunteers from the student body?
Right. So every program has volunteers that participate with that program. So things like thank you dinners, those are for the volunteers that have already done service with them last semester. But recruitment events are available for the entire student body if they're interested in the specific cause that that program serves. So they're able to recruit volunteers, but the volunteers that they already have are also allowed to participate in those events as well. Does that clarify?
It does. So from what you're saying that you call your members volunteers and those volunteers are allowed to bring more volunteers.
Yes, exactly. So each program has specific volunteers that are passionate about that same cause that program serves.
Okay, thank you for that.
No problem.
And also, if anyone has any further questions, Lainey and I would love to speak offline and just make sure that we're clarifying that because I know it is a big emergency fund that we are requesting, but it's just important that we're being intentional with our community and we're making sure that we're doing things that are necessary to serve them and to basically mobilize disenfranchised communities.
Sorry, I was taking so long. I was looking something up. So last semester, or could you just tell me how much Outreach Day went over their budget last semester? Do you know?
Yeah.
Because last semester, $700 was allocated to them.
Right. So Outreach Day, Lainey can speak a little bit more on this, but Outreach Day, like we said, that is the site. So Men on the Move actually ended up ceding their budget to Outreach Day just because Outreach Day really needed the funds. So yeah, so we actually ended up giving them $300 extra, so they could host their last few volunteer days, and also add some more volunteer days, because in the past, Outreach Day has been a monthly service, and we made sure that the way we engage the community best is to be weekly now. So that's why they kind of required more funds.
Okay, thank you for that
So I
clarification.
can tell you the actual number. In total, Outreach Day, we reallocated and gave them $900 for the semester, and they used 800 of that.
Senators, do y'all have any other questions? Okay, so just to let y'all know, we're gonna go into Senate discussion, but you all will not receive approval or denial or adjustments of your budget until after Friday, when we receive your leftover allocations. So we're just gonna talk about it, and we're gonna floor it until after Friday.
Okay, thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you, guys.
I realized I was still talking when I left, so my apologies. I am sitting here talking, nobody can hear me. Um, since it is already 7:30, I would like to move on to commentary and announcements. And as far as code of conduct, I'm thinking of creating a code of conduct for the Senate because we will be meeting virtually, and I feel like we should have virtual codes of conduct. Also, just to refresh people's memory on the constitutional requirements. Um, so do y'all, if y'all have any ideas about what y'all want to add to the code of conduct, you guys can email that to me as well as the Senate clerk. But all of the information that is in the Constitution will be included in the the Senate code of conduct. So you will not have to worry about adding those things. But if any additional things, um, it could be anything. So anything you guys want to see and think that everyone should follow this semester, please send that out. And I'll plan to have that completed. So send that to me by Friday because I'll plan to have that completed by Sunday so that you all can sign it by the time of our next meeting. So moving on to commentary and announcements. Here I have Troy Carter's name. I put this here because he is currently a senator. I saw him on like some sign in New Orleans by my house, and he's supposedly running for congressman, but he's also a senator right now. And I feel like it would be a cool idea to have someone come speak about their role as a US senator and what they do. Because I feel like it will help you all understand more of your role because we are mimicking what a US Senate does. And Troy Carter, his son like goes to our school, I think. Baraka, I saw your name here. You here? Maybe he's not. I thought I saw Baraka's name.
He was there briefly. So Senator Carter currently is a state senator for the state of Louisiana, and he's running for the position that Congressman Cedric Richmond just resigned from to serve in the Biden administration. So he's, of course, he's an alum, and he's currently, as I said, a senator representing this district in the Louisiana State House.
Yes. So I was gonna ask Baraka because Troy Carter Jr., his son, is a part of the same organization Baraka's in. And I felt like maybe they could have some sort of connection there. I don't see Baraka's name. I thought I saw Baraka's name, but maybe I didn't. So I'll reach out to Baraka. But what do you guys think about that? Do y'all think that's something cool that y'all would be interested in?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then also you guys could ask about legislation and stuff like that. It could help you all think of legislation for campus and things of that nature. I just think it would be a good idea to have a speaker come. But as far as code of conduct, yes, we will talk about code of conduct through our group meeting and just come up with ideas of what we want on it. And I'm going to send it to y'all, and y'all just need to sign it and send it back to me before the next Senate meeting. Does that sound fair to everyone? Thanks. All right. So can I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I, Senator Broussard, move to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Alrighty, the meeting has been adjourned at 7:33 p.m. Thank you all for coming out today. Look forward to seeing a message in the group meet, either from me or Jordan. And y'all have a good week. Be happy. Life's great. So y'all have a good evening.
You as well.
Good night. Okay, I have a